All right. Welcome back. Our guest is Engineer Sam, and we are with him today. His share is vying for the position of the first vice president. And before we went for a break, he was articulating the idea or answering the question as to why some branches are not vibrant as it should be. So, as he sets his mic, we need to understand that when he said South Central Rift, I believe he meant South Rift, a branch that already set good standards in terms of visibility and in terms of how vibrant a branch should be. So, engineer, before we went for a break, I'd ask you a question, and you had answered the
Yes.
one for branches. So, as you're now going to tackle the one for the regulator, where I asked why the regulator, the IEK, is taking the direction of being a regulator, yet as a welfare society, IEK should be able to fight for the students who go through, because Kenya is now big, we still don't have a number of universities, and we still don't have enough professors, because training an engineer is actually very expensive. So you find an idea like, say, Technical University of Kenya, or say Technical of
Yes.
Mombasa, or even Machakos universities. These are young universities, and they need to be motivated so that they have people. Many engineers don't want to go to work, say, in Machakos, because they feel like the potential is in Nairobi, or say in Mombasa, because everything more or less is in Nairobi. So as a society, I am of the opinion that the society should be able to take care of this program that we so-called unaccredited programs, and admit the graduates in a category, say graduate engineer, and give them in communication with the Engineers Board of Kenya, identify the gap that this is required for them to be well trained and properly registered. Because I find it very awkward that the act, the Engineers Act, which is a regulator, this is a government body which everyone has to be registered with. In other fields, in other areas, in other countries, society is the one that caters for this. Actually,
Yes.
mostly people join the society first before joining the regulator.
Yeah.
So why is IEK taking the stand of a regulator, yet IEK can have structure such that these programs that are unaccredited, we have many graduate engineers who are suffering outside just because it
I
says
hear you.
that they went through an accredited program. That is one. Two,
Mm-hmm.
there is a constitution review. This constitution review, you have a very nice copy there. Well, can you raise it again for members to see it? I have never seen that copy like that. I think I only received, maybe it was a draft. This is what should be scanned and sent to members for members to review, because we have not reviewed it.
By the way, it is in the website. Let me just start, and maybe I'll tell you why it is not there.
Yes.
Um,
And wait a minute.
but just finish your questions, and
All
I'll
right.
explain. Yeah.
Okay. Then the issue of, you said IEK has structures, but somehow there is lack of structures and streaming of information as they come out. You see, look at, for example, there is this, the voters list has come out. It has not been circulated to people. It's just on the website. I haven't received an email, for example. I believe many members have not received an email about it. So can you comment about how the information is streaming? I believe a vibrant society should have information streaming, and members, every time there's a, you can't hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead. Or
I think engineer is having problem with these settings. Can you hear me? Just shake your head if you can hear me. Okay, now can you click on the button or next to your microphone and just test the mic and speaker. All right, just a minute, members. Let me cancel this and then we start him afresh. Can you log off and log in? Just leave the meeting. There's a place there that you can leave a meeting. All right, as engineer is still setting himself up, I feel that the streaming of information at IEK is wanting. Like it doesn't, even as much as much have been done at IEK that we have information coming, but it's not coming out as prompt and when necessary. I don't believe all engineers received an email regarding the list of voters, and engineer, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sure. Now you can. Now I was saying that the structures at IEK, as much have been done, but we still see a gap whereby the information is streaming.
I can hear you.
Is streaming very slowly outside for members to
Okay.
consume. So as you comment on those, before allow members to take to ask questions, please try to respond on
So,
those.
can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I proceed.
Yes, engineer.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. So let us start with the accredited programs, the challenge we're having with our graduate engineers, and then issues about the constitutional review. I'll start off from the from the last question about the constitutional review and perhaps why most of these documents cannot be found on why many members do not have physical copies of this particular constitution. I believe in previous presentations that were made by Engineer Matalanga or Honsek, he may have given you a background as to what perhaps transpired during what I'd call the reformation period under this institution. We were with him in the council, and one of the key things that we were denied as a team was to have a published constitution for members. So we took it upon ourselves with Engineer Matalanga to single-handedly with him ensure that this was presented, and we were able only to produce very few copies. Most of the copies actually are with Engineer Matalanga, simply because the council then refused to provide a budget for members. And to this very day, that council, which was anti-reform, so to speak, did not allow the publication of this particular constitution. And that is what led to the revolution. Now, I can clearly say that was then, this is now. We believe that the transformation and the change that has happened from that particular time to date, we'll then see the circulation of this particular very important document to all members of the institution. But suffice it to say, we have it on soft on the website. And we believe it's a right for every member to have a printed copy to be able to go through it and to be able to contribute to this reformation. But why am I saying this? It has been a journey. This is the untold story of the transformation that has taken place. This is a story that has not been sung out loud. Who are the people behind it? I can clearly say I've been part and parcel of the back office that has ensured that what the freedoms we enjoy, particularly with regard to this particular constitution, is something that I personally invested my time and energies to ensure that we have it today. So suffice it to say that is for now. But believe you me, going forward, with regard to the next council, we should be able to produce, once we have done the second phase or the remaining part of the constitutional review, to ensure that we'll have even a better document and publish it for all members, because we have a progressive council. Then those days it was very hard to even get such agendas approved. But now with the current council, and we believe the incoming council, this should not be a challenge. We've outgrown that stage of fighting for change. Right now, it is to anchor transformational leadership within this institution. So
And
straight now to the question on,
as before you leave that, can you, is a yes or no? Can we count
yes,
on you and the next council, if you're elected, that you will
yes,
fight for proper institutional structures that we will not depend on an individual's goodwill for an institution
exactly.
to work?
I stand for it. And for me, my interest in, and that is my motto, anchoring transformational leadership. The challenge which we have is, unless we have a well-structured and anchored institution with processes, procedures, and people with the right vision running the secretariat with a good board, it doesn't matter who comes thereafter.
All right.
Once our term ends, you can be assured that the institutional structures that we shall have left after we've anchored this transformational agenda will be something that we can never go back to the bad history we had. And that is really my promise.
All right. Next question.
So to now the question of accredited programs and the challenge that graduate engineers have had and the role of our society and the welfare. If you look at my vision and what I've said, my vision actually addresses that single issue as a main agenda, the School of Engineering. Now, why am I talking about the School of Engineering? It is a responsibility within the law for IBK to have that particular school done. Now, what I'm saying as an institution, IEK, I'd want us to take an active role in establishing that particular school. For this will provide, one, the transitional place for which any person who has studied engineering can be able to have an opportunity to bridge gaps that they never had the opportunity of bridging, depending on the university that they attended. And that is really the whole essence of my campaign. Simply put, in order to achieve the 100% transition from GE to PE and address the gaps that people have undergone trainings that perhaps do not match the standard that was required by the Act, we will provide a home for them through that School of Engineering. This will be a win-win for all parties, both the regulator and we as IEK, as the welfare society. So it's a win-win position that I would love to champion as a leader within the institution. Now, how will that run? With the partnership, there's so much goodwill out there in ensuring we get enough engineers, one, who have at least studied engineering to be able to practice. And that is the biggest problem we have. But through the School of Engineering, which is actually my anchor vision for this particular campaign, this is something that will address all graduates, whether they attended both the accredited and unaccredited program, through the partnership, because that has to be done. But why is it important that it is done in a structured manner? Well, Kenya is a country and has engineers, but it's not in isolation. It's part of a global community. And we have mutual recognition agreements across the continent and across the globe, of which we are aspiring to be signatories of. And one of the conditions is about the type of training that is given to our engineers in colleges, in the various universities. And therefore, this particular gap has always been there, in the sense that we are limited in terms of the market under which Kenyan engineers can operate under, simply because we've not signed up some of their accords. Now, what is the root cause of that problem? It is because of some programs do not match that which is acceptable across other jurisdictions. And therefore,
engineer, before you go
and
on,
therefore, maybe just to conclude it, and
yes.
therefore, it's in our best interest to work with all parties that are involved in engineering education and professional development to come together and provide a solution to the next generation of Kenyan engineers. And that is really what this platform and what I'd love to drive. Thank you.
Now, look at it this way. Engineering in Kenya takes 5 years. That is,
Yes.
if there is no strike, there is nothing happening, you will take 5 years, and you'll be lucky enough to take 5 years.
Yes.
Now, how do you think, in one sentence, how do you think the engineering school is going to be? Is it going to be in a practical way set up, whereby when somebody gets registered with the engineering school, and the engineering school help them get admission into a job place where they work for maybe 3 years, get required experience? How is it going to be? Or is it going to be like the Kenya School of Law, where somebody is sent to school again to study and pass an exam?
Not necessarily. It will be a hybrid, because you see, we come from different, as you rightly alluded, we all came from different engineering institutions. There, we have a challenge, one, with those who need to bridge, right? Who perhaps may have done a 4-year program instead of a 5-year program, so they'll need more time. That is Group A. Group B are those who need to be able to get some experience, so to speak, industrial experience, in a very well-structured manner, and being able then to do it in a formal setup. So what I'm conceptualizing is a hybrid of both, depending on your need, because it's a need-based institution.
But
And it will have both.
don't you think the
It will
5-year
have both.
program, I understand both hybrid setup, but don't you think that
It's a,
the requirement of 5-year program in Kenya is outdated, because the world has moved from there? The Bologna process, I hope you understand what Bologna process is, requires equal setup for engineering. If you go to Europe, right now, even in China and Korea, even in the US, the degree program engineering is 4 years, or even 3 years if somebody does not take a break in summer. So
now, let me explain something about it. If you look at our education curriculum and what is currently happening in the government generally, and what is being piloted, and actually now has become mainstream, is called the competence-based curriculum, right? And I'd like us to start right from primary school. The reason why the government has gone for competence-based learning and training is to address the issues that you're now mentioning. It's a complete overhaul of our education system. And what does that mean? In CBC curriculum, I think we've only reached grade 4 thereabouts, right?
yes.
Now, what will happen in high school? What will happen post-high school? What will happen in university? Yet the kind of training that the next generation of Kenyans are under CBC, what is the net implication when it comes to CBC, quote unquote, for the engineering education?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see where I'm driving at. What it means that where we'll be going in the next 2 or 3 years, there'll be a complete overhaul of our engineering curricula, right?
All
And I
right.
can foresee that happening simply
So,
because,
in
so
short,
what
you're
I'm saying,
saying,
it is something that it is bound to happen.
all
And
right.
what we need to do right now is to prepare for the same and plan to change our curriculum to ensure that it will be, in quotes, competence-based, so to speak.
And matching
I
with
think
the
that's
outside world.
exactly.
Abdi, can you ask your question in one sentence? Abdi,
Hello, engineer.
hello.
Yes, Engineer Abdi, how are you?
I'm doing good. You are the chairperson of the advocacy
Yes,
committee.
right.
You are the chairperson of advocacy committee. During your term, what did you manage to do?
What we were able to do on two fronts, specifically with regard to the advocacy part. One of the key things that we were able to do in terms of advocacy is being able, and the journal and publicity committee, first and foremost, which I mentioned earlier, is actually focused on getting the copyright. The Kenya Engineer, which has been our journal, has been one of a sticky point for very, very many years, which we've never been able to solve over a long period of time. It's got a long history. But suffice it to say, in 1 minute, we were able then to get a copyright over that particular instrument, which is a communication mouthpiece for our engineers, something that has never been done since the establishment of the advocate APJ committee from the establishment of the institution. So that is one key major achievement in terms of the APJ committee. With regard to advocacy, we've been able to make some, if you remember, perhaps, and publicity, if you remember, we've had several incidences where some of my colleagues, engineer, past Vice President Jane Mutilili, and some other. Hello? Yes. Sorry. Can somebody mute their phone?
I'm doing that.
Mute them. So I was saying, when we had some incidences at various locations, we've had the engineer's voice heard and spoken of, right from the fire that was in one of the buildings within Gong Road. You may have seen some news clips that were publicized by some of the members of the council, specifically Engineer Jane Mutilili and Engineer Matalanga, representing and publicizing the role of the engineer in terms of national issues and national crisis. Perhaps that advocacy role in terms of explaining what engineers have done with regard to such incidences have been done in the past to explain that we also have a voice in some of these incidences. That has never happened in any other previous council. In fact, it's this particular council, and I give credit to my counterparts as my seniors, who are my colleagues in the council, having stepped up and made statements on the same. And apart from that, in terms of representation in various fora, which I can explain in terms of advocacy, we had our member of our APJ contribute to some of the forums that were held during the year. I can remember the Nakuru, sorry, not Nakuru, but Naivasha. The Naivasha, there was a seminar that was held where we needed some contribution, especially on this particular thorny issue called complete roads. The complete road phenomena, whereby presentations were made, and that has advocated for infrastructure that is not done the normal way, where we have just pure roads, but roads with cycle lanes, we have walkways, so on and so forth, and positional papers presented on the same. And yeah, so that's just but a few I can, at the top of my mind, that I can actually say in terms of advocacy. We've been able to represent the engineering fraternity and make a voice with regard to policy.
Another thorny question in that advocacy is, in one sentence, in one word, yes or no, advocacy committee is the one that is supposed to fight, to advise members and to assist in scenario whereby if there is a court case, you fight for out of court settlement, right?
No, that is no, that's not the committee. We have an ADR
And that is
committee.
ADR. And as a committee, as a subcommittee of a bigger council, what did
Yes.
you do to ensure that we don't the society does not have a court case?
One of the key things that I'd like to say with regard to court cases, I can tell you, and I'll speak in general for this particular council led by our president, Engineer Juma Collins.
Yes.
I can tell you there's a lot of ADR that has happened in time past, which may not have been publicized. We had court cases that were done on elections, and we had various contestants who had taken the institution to court. And I can tell you mediation was done as part of ADR mechanism. And one of my seniors, we've had that's Engineer James Mwangi, my senior, and his team were able to go ahead and process the removal of a court case that IEK had on the contested election, simply because when the electronic elections took place, it was within, he felt satisfied. And that is a successful ADR that took place on that has happened within our current term as a council. So it has been very effective. However, on the other hand, we've also had some members who have chosen to go to court. And not that they were not given a chance of mediation and to discuss and talk things over, but as mentioned, ADR is a choice an individual has to make. And I always say you need to judge somebody by one thing. The institution will always remain. I will not be in this institution forever, but the institution will always remain. And therefore, as members, I'd like to say this as follows. We have really a choice. If you fight individuals, you will fail, right?
Yes.
If you choose to fight, but if you fight for the institution to survive and to grow for posterity, we will grow. But most of our members, and unfortunately, sorry to say this, not everybody subscribes to ADR, and people still prefer going to take their matters to court to get a hearing, and they have a right. But I always say, look at it from the long term. This term that I'm serving as a council, it'll come to an end, and there'll be somebody after me. And I should be asking myself, will I have left the institution better or worse by my actions? Now, if I choose to fight the institution, one thing I can assure you, you will fight the institution, it will never grow, it will not provide an avenue for more membership. You'll be destroying the very father and mother for the next generation.
All right.
And therefore, yeah, so really that is my appeal. People have chosen to go to court, not that they didn't have a choice to go for ADR, whether through mediation or arbitration of their cases. But suffice it to say that we hope to build an institution whereby the institution comes first before individual interest. If we truly believe that the institution is greater than any one of us, I'd appeal to any person who has an issue against the institution to choose to go for the ADR mechanism rather than go to court. Because at the end of the day, it's a very institution that has your welfare and the welfare of the next generation at heart.
All right.
Thank you.
I will give this moment to, I see we have our lady engineers in the house and other participants to ask questions. One question, members? Engineer Lucy? Diana?
Yes.
Question?
Mine is not necessary. Yes, I can be heard.
Yes.
Yes.
So mine is not necessarily on IK. It will go to your work at Konza.
Yes.
So how is the progress of Konza? I mean, we've been hearing about Konza since I was in primary school, because that is when President Kibaki commissioned it. I was still
Lucy,
in
you're
primary.
not young?
But every time I pass through, there is only one building. What is the progress of the Silicon Valley, quote unquote, of Kenya? Thank you.
Yeah. Konza Technopolis, I can tell you this is one project that is actually up and running. Why perhaps, and I'll address, is what people see. What people don't see is the work that is actually taking place at the city. Currently, we're dealing with what we call the EPCF contract with a company called ICM from Italy. And the first phase of this project is a 400-acre piece of property in which we're currently doing what we call the horizontal infrastructure. Now, the horizontal infrastructure include a water treatment facility, a utility tunnel, which is actually about 3 meters underground. It's a 4-kilometer underground utility tunnel, which carries all utilities, that is electricity, potable water, fiber, and it carries also waste, solid waste, in an automatic vacuum-based system. Now, the challenge is most people from the roadside cannot see much, but most of the services are underground, the roads. But I can tell you by February 2022, all this horizontal infrastructure will have been complete. And right now we have anchor tenants who have come on board. We're expecting to break ground for our major anchor tenant, that is KAIST, Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which is going to take place sometime in July this year or September thereabout. And we have other investors who have come on board and have expressed interest to develop some facilities, major facilities. One is called a digital media city, which is an example of what is happening in Dubai.
Okay.
Now, not much is being said about it because at this current stage of construction, most of it is underground. But I'd like to welcome each and every one of you. I hope that even during my time in the next council, to also organize a tour for members to come and actually see the incredible engineering work at the city.
Engineer,
And so,
even if you're not elected as a council member, I believe
either way,
you can organize for a tour.
either way, irrespective, because what we're doing here is like nothing seen in any other country,
Okay.
especially the utility tunnel. It's one of the state-of-the-art facilities that will make and differentiate Konza City.
Exactly.
So you're all welcome.
Abdi has a
As
question.
IEK, yes.
I'm actually looking forward to that trip, and also to becoming an investor there sometime. Thank you for answering it.
Please do, Diana. Please do.
Abdi?
Engineer,
Yes.
engineer, you have been a member of the constitutional review team, and
Right.
you have known that. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
You've been a member of the constitutional review team, and you have known that our constitution 2015 as having a system that at the branch levels, people can just hand in power from one person to another, and there's a lot of impunity on that area. What are the changes that you have pushed for when it comes to the branches in this new constitution that you have forwarded as a draft?
Okay, let me start by saying as follows. One of the key challenges which we've had as a constitutional review committee was members' contribution in terms of changes. And maybe just to correct the position, the role of the committee, first of all, to receive contributions from members for adoption and possible change in the constitution. So one of the key things that we are focusing on, and I think which I can say categorically, and what we're enjoying right now, is electronic voting, which unfortunately we were not able to conclude it during this particular session of constitutional review, but that is one of the benefits which we are enjoying and we're going to enjoy since the previous election. But suffice it to say, with regard to what we're looking in terms of a progressive institution, one of the key things that we are looking at, apart from formation of branches, which clearly the South Rift branch has been a beneficiary of it even before the conclusion of the constitution. And clearly that is something that I can say is very progressive. But one of the key things that we're looking at is, as an institution for growth, we must make provision, one, to accommodate all forms, everybody who has studied engineering. And we're also saying, given the different diverse fields in engineering, we hope that we can be able to metamorphose, we outgrow just having branches, but special interest groups. There are new fields in engineering that have taken off, and several societies that have come up. And we'd like to see this institution to be the mother of these subsidiary special interest groups, whereby other than meeting as engineers of all disciplines, what I'm foreseeing in the next constitution is whereby we make provisions to have recognized special interest groups. Say, for example, we'll have nuclear engineering as one field, or bioengineers, biotech engineers, or engineers who have specialized in some specific field. We'd like to have societies for those, because that is the only way we can grow the engineering fraternity. So that is the new model in terms of growth, and that is what I'm looking at as one of the key areas that we need to grow our institution, to have autonomous special interest groups that are going to then take off as body of knowledge. We want, petroleum is a big thing, for example. We don't have petroleum engineers, right? And we'd like a society perhaps in that line, now that we have oil and gas in this country. So those are the kind of things that our institution should then be able to provide for such groups to grow as a society. Then everybody can find a home in IEK. And more importantly, for mentorship, because we have specialized degrees. Many people studying all over the world. How do they identify with the three major engineerings, or four? The electrical, mechanical, the civil, the agricultural, how they may not fit in that context. So we need to expand it to what is the current kind of engineering seen globally. So that is the kind of constitution. Yes.
Engineer, you have not answered my question.
Yes.
You have not answered my question. I asked clearly that in the Constitution 2015, we have that clause 14 A to F, whereby it is giving impunity way of leadership, whereby the council, the committee is chosen by the members of the committee. Even the people who are representing people are not given chance to give their list of leadership. It is being imposed on them. What changes have you pushed for to change those impunitive clauses of that part? And again, I understand the issue of chapters. Why are you guys proposing chapters to be separate and not be hosted under the branches? Why are you guys making the branches very weak instead of improving and empowering them?
Let's start from the background. The constitutional review is an ongoing process, right? So first of all, let me make it clear that has not been locked out, right? Yeah, it's not been locked out, because if it's a proposal that has been submitted, which in my view has not been received as the way you've mentioned, weakening of there is no particular individual who has submitted, so to speak, and say this is how we want it to be done. But that does not mean you do not have an opportunity to that does not mean you don't have an opportunity to take part in that constitutional review. Let me put it clearly and to everybody that it's an ongoing process. The next council will continue with this process. It never concluded.
Right.
And I think if you're in the SGM, I think it was mentioned clearly that part of the contributions from members were very limited.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So what I'd like to say, Abdi, is that you have an opportunity
to do more,
you have
to give inputs.
to recommend, give inputs for anything, because this is an open book.
Okay.
Issues of impunity is part of the changes.
All
That
right,
is why we
Engineer.
are actually doing review.